Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. With that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. Ronald Records. From indie gems to classic hits, discover the heart of local music. With live shows all the time, up close and personal, and regular releases on their in-house label. Ronald Records. Supporting the community, one track at a time. All right, thank y'all so much for watching again. Shout out The Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
Hey, I'm JoJo Gold.
Hello.
Hey.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, what you do. Give us that Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
Sure. So I'm JoJo Gold.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an indie folk punk singer-songwriter in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, yeah. And what got you into music initially?
So initially, I grew up in a house where music was always being played.
Mm-hmm.
American Bandstand was always on. And my mom and dad made me take piano lessons.
Yeah. I know exactly how that
and
one
I'm
goes.
so grateful for them.
I was very bad at them. I did not last
the
very
worst.
long. Yeah. But where was anybody else in your household musically inclined instrumentally, or did
So my dad, he plays the organ and the accordion.
Oh, okay. Oh wow.
Yeah, by ear. So as I'm struggling taking my lessons, he's just noodling all over the organ, and it's and the accordion. And
what complicated keys instruments you pick up and be like, oh, I figured this out. That's
and then I would ask him the left hand of the accordion,
mm-hmm.
all the buttons, what do these mean? He's like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I just play it.
Give
me something to start with. Where is middle C? He's like, I don't know. Just play it.
I never even considered the fact that there is a middle C somewhere on the accordion. Oh, geez. Oh, man. Well, props to him.
Yeah, I guess there'd be a middle C. I don't know. It was just something that I could reference,
Man, that's
piano.
wild. And then I guess when did you move from, do you still play the piano mainly? Do you do other instruments now?
So I took lessons for 6 years,
mm-hmm.
and then I was like, I don't want to do this. And then I wanted to be able to go on the band trips in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so I convinced the band teacher that I could play the bells.
Mm.
So I played the bells for marching band
mm-hmm.
to get me into these going on band trips.
Gotcha.
I played the bells and the drums.
Oh,
I did
exciting.
quads for marching band, which was really cool.
Okay, that's rad.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, I guess yeah. That's a cool way to do it.
But to your point, I hadn't played piano for a very long time, and I was like, once I get a house, then I'll invest into getting a nice piano.
God.
And so, my wife and I bought a house in Portland
mm-hmm.
in 2016,
mm-hmm.
and then I went and got a piano.
Nice.
And so it's been really fun, digging out all my piano books and now actually appreciating it. And being able to play some of my own songs on the piano. So it's really cool.
There is something special about having a piano in the house.
Yeah.
It
feels
my dad
like
always
comfort.
played. Yeah. My dad always played, and he had one. And so even though I was so bad at it, I was just the worst at it.
Yeah.
Even now, I'm not good at it. But just being able to sit down and make noise, like just really inspires something.
Cool. And it's funny too, like how that muscle memory comes back. Like, you release, like, oh yeah, I can play that totally, without looking at the sheet music, just from those years of practice.
Yeah.
From 5 to 11.
Yeah, very much so.
Pretty neat.
Now, before we get into more of what you do with music in the present day, I do have a couple foundation questions I like to check in with everybody on. And this first one is one we ask early, it's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
Oh, God. So for some reason, Public Enemy is sticking in my head right now.
Okay. I mean, that's a quality first choice for sure.
Yeah, I think it might have been that.
I dig that.
But like I had, I had albums from like Christmas and stuff like that.
I was gonna say, I imagine your parents already had like a pretty solid repertoire of music for you.
Yeah.
But I'm always curious to know what's the first one that people like going like this one.
I feel like it was some sort of hip hop, and I think it was Public Enemy.
That's awesome. And then what was one of the first live shows you ever went to that was like specifically one you wanted to go to?
Arrested Development.
Okay.
And that was so amazing.
Oh man,
it was such a trip.
I can't even begin to imagine.
It was so
that was
cool.
Such an experience. I imagine.
It was an amphitheater. It was incredible.
That's rad.
Yeah.
And then before we officially get into you today, do you have a defining moment where you decided you wanted to take music more seriously?
Yeah, this is a good story. I was going to a community college, and I needed just a couple credits, and I was like, I'm going to take this choir class because it's easy. I just needed 2 credits for this semester. And I got into this choir class, and the teacher was like, well, this is not what you think it's going to be. He's like, you're going to pick a piece of music, you're going to perform it in front of the class, and then we're going to critique you.
Oh no.
Exact look.
Oh no.
That's the exact look I had. Like, I think the whole class felt that way. And I like instantly panicked, and I was like, I got to get out of this class. There's no way I can do this. And like, I had played guitar a little bit in the bedroom. Like, I'm going to backtrack for a second.
Yeah.
I wanted a guitar, and my mom's like, well, you don't practice piano. Why would I get you a guitar? And it's like, well, I think I need it. I think that's my instrument.
Yeah. And
so I had to save up my money to buy my first Lotus electric guitar and like a crate amp. And so anyways, so then I'm in this class, and I'm like, okay, how do I get out of this class? I can't do this. There's no way I can do this. But I was like, but I still kind of want to do it. Yeah. So I like talked to the teacher. I was like, I need at least 2 weeks. I can't do this in a week. He's like, sure. Okay. I'll give you 2 weeks. And he had like a woman who would accompany you on piano. You pick your piece, and then you practice with her through the week, and then you perform it in front of the class. It was terrifying, and it was awful and great at the same time. And the class was so supportive, and the teacher was so supportive. And the woman who played piano was like, I think you need to go to an open mic. And I was like, I don't know if I can do that. And she's like, I know you can do that. She's like, I'm going to meet you there. I didn't know anybody in this town, and she was like, I'll meet you there and support you. You need to go to an open mic. And I was like, okay. So I got my 3 songs, and I practiced and practiced and practiced. And I went to the open mic, and it was exhilarating, and it was nerve-wracking, and it was so fun. And then at the end of that semester, my teacher wrote a note, and it's still in my guitar case, that says something like, you are going to be successful in music and whatever you do. And it was like, oh, like I hold that in my guitar case, because that was like, that I think was such a pivotal time where I was like, yeah, I want to do this. And I had people that believed in me, that I could do it.
Oh, that's really awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
What were the 3 songs you played at the open?
Ooh, I did Who Will Save Your Soul by Jewel.
Nice.
Like, I can belt that. I was like, oh, that's such a good one. Brown Eyed Girl by Van Morrison. And I think it was Rolling Stones, Angie. I think it was Angie that I did.
Okay, so quality jams all the way around.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I guess when did you realize you could sing? Like, when did you get into singing more? Was it before that, or like did you go into that thinking, like into that class being like, oh, I already know how to sing?
I took choir in high school, so I was familiar with singing.
Okay.
But was I singing correctly? No, not really. Like that took a lot of practice and lessons to learn how to do that. But
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I feel like we have a pretty good timeline of the elements of music that you do. So let's go ahead and get on into you in the present day.
Yeah.
We are going to get a super easy one out of the way first.
Okay.
How'd you pick the name?
Oh. So my real name is Joanne Riedel.
Mhm.
And so people call me JoJo. And I used to always wear these American Apparel gold spandex shorts.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend always called me Gold Lion.
Mm.
And so like I toyed with like just going with Gold Lion. And I love the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. I love that song Gold Lion. But JoJo Gold, I love it.
It's a good one. I do this bit where I break down names, and it's simple. It's subtle. It's easy to remember. Nobody's gonna mess up the spelling. It's very phonetic, but like aesthetically, like the letter J is a fun one. I think that's one that's kind of slept on as far as like a cool looking letter goes. So to have it twice, and then gold is just a good word.
Yeah,
like
solid.
It's when you hear it, you're just like, there's only positive connotation that gets attached to it most of the time. So all in all, big fan. I enjoy it quite a bit.
Yeah, because I used my my birth name on my very first album that I did. Mm-hmm. And that was really cool back then. But it's hard to know the spelling, and it's not that catchy.
Yeah.
Like I need something that was catchy.
No, definitely. My last name is a train wreck of a word, so that's why I went with Jambox.
Oh yeah,
because I'm just like, alliteration is fun, and nobody's gonna not know that one.
Right.
I get that for sure. But now let's go ahead and let's talk about your writing process a little bit. And we're going to break it up into chunks, but we're going to start right at the beginning. So when you get inspired, you're ready to make music. What are some of the things you do to get a track started?
I've been really, it's funny, as I'm getting older, I really appreciate the mornings. Mm-hmm. Morning time a lot is like my best creativity. It flows the best in the mornings. Like 5:30 in the morning, I get my tea and I start strumming, and just that meditative place that I go to, I guess.
Yeah.
But I found that has been what really starts it, is just early mornings.
Okay. And what do you do with what comes from those mornings? Like, do you like sit down and flush them out with another artist? Do you have like a space that you make music yourself? Like, where does it go from there?
Yeah. So I play to my dog in the morning in the living room.
The best audience.
She always loves it. So I start there, and I journal and I write notes, and it's chicken scratch, and it's sometimes I'll use my phone just to record something. Which, I mean, God, how awesome is it that we can do that? Compared to like back in the day when you didn't have that.
Yeah, maybe hit the buttons on the tape.
Yeah, you had that
little mic.
So I guess I start there. There's sometimes that it just rolls right off, and I'm like, just did a song in 30 minutes, and like that was really awesome.
Wow.
Maybe I'll come back to that. Maybe it's done. I don't know. It's gonna just sit there for a minute and let me like think about that. There's other songs where I write down notes and I write down chords, and it sucks.
Yeah, by the time you flush out the process, you're just like, I don't like this.
Yeah. And like I have to play it a lot myself before I'm gonna share it with somebody. Even with like a bass player or piano player or anybody, my wife or family, friends, I definitely have to make sure that I feel good about it first.
God.
Before I'm like, what do you think about this?
God. Okay.
I either know like it's good, or there's the song Radiate on my album. It's the title track of the album, but that was a really funny song where I'm like, I couldn't get it to like work. And I like reached out to a couple people, and I'm like, I need some help. Like something's missing. And then I didn't get any feedback from anybody
Oh,
that I
no.
reached out to. And I was like, okay, that just means that I have to figure it out,
Yeah.
you know? And then I did. And I think it's a cute little love song and it worked. But I feel like the writing process it's me, you know?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
And then once you get a track finished to the point where you're like, okay, this is done, I can start practicing it.
Yeah.
How long does it usually take you to get to the point where you feel like you can perform it?
Oh God. Yeah. Right. That first song is always so hard when you're like, you know, you go to an open mic, and you're just like, all right, I got this song I need to play. And you're like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not ready to share it with the world. I say, I don't know. I feel like I need like a good week.
Okay.
A good week or two of like every day, just keep practicing and practicing and practicing.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty good amount of time though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then let's take a moment and talk about some of your music.
Yeah.
So I went on to Spotify.
Yeah.
Checked out what's available on there. And your music does go back to 2008 with that first album. But then there's a little bit of gap there.
Yeah.
I guess before I get into the tracks itself, was there music in between that you released under the name and just isn't there anymore? Or was there a little bit of a break in between?
Yeah. So good question. I'm going to go back a little bit further.
Yeah, please.
So my first album came out in 2004. That's where I was Joanne Riedel and Kicked Out Scout. It's kind of political punk album.
Gotcha.
And then I was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at that time. And then I ended up joining a band called the Barrettes. And that's a Riot Girl rock and roll band. And we would dress up and it was so fun. So we have a couple albums, or we have an album and an EP. And then I had another band called Blue Sky Hour that I was doing at the same time.
Oh,
and I record.
Good name.
Thanks. And then the album that you saw, Seasons of Wreckage, which came out in 2008. And then just a huge hiatus. I was doing music. I recorded an album. I never put it out under Blue Sky Hour. And then we moved here. And then I just got so sidetracked with nature and relaxing. I felt like I was so busy in Milwaukee with all the different bands and working part-time jobs to be able to play shows and, you know, all of that. And then, you know, got distracted with the beauty of Oregon and camping and all the wonderful, amazing foods and all that stuff, buying a house, career, all that. But I was still playing at home. Like I was still playing to the dog. And then, you know, campfires and stuff like that. And then I just totally kind of got out of it and didn't go to any of the open mics. And not that I didn't want to, I just didn't. And just kind of took a break and I was, you know, still playing around the house and I got the piano. So I was like, you know, figuring all that stuff out and really focusing on my own technique of vocals and guitar skill. And then I was like, I think I'm ready. Like I need to go to an open mic.
Gotcha.
And so what was that like? It would have been, I don't know, 8 years since I performed in front of somebody.
Wow.
And so I got to the open mic. My first open mic in Portland was the Starday Tavern.
Okay.
And I got there and I was like, I can't do this. Like the nerves were just like skyrocketing. Like I just couldn't. I was like, I got to get out of here. I did not. I got through it. And that was like, I was like, I got to do this every week. This is what I'm going to do, you know? So like, I started doing that and I was like, yeah, this is what I needed. This is what was missing in my life. And I remember going back home to my wife and I was like, I finally feel like I belong. Like this is the community that I was missing, you know, like all these amazing, talented musicians in Portland that are just there to support you, you know,
Very
and encourage you. Like, I love that. And I needed that.
Yeah, no, Portland has a really cool open mic scene and a DIY scene. The like individual making music aspect of this area in particular is so powerful. But thank you for sharing that. That was a really interesting experience. Getting back into your music though, I was checking it out. Yeah. And first of all, I really enjoyed it. I think it composition wise, it's really strong. Your current music is a little less distortion driven. I've noticed it's a little more airy, a little more folky almost.
Yeah.
But it's cool because now, having heard your story a little bit, it feels like there's almost an introduction of nature in your current sound.
Yeah.
But I do this bit where I pick out a track I liked. And while I did very much enjoy your new album, Radiate, I decided to go back to your previous album and pick out a track from there. So Seasons of Wreckage. Okay. And I almost went with Release, the final track.
Oh, yeah.
But I gave one more pass through and I decided to go with Garden.
Oh, yeah.
And first of all, it starts off so strong. Just the way it opens up and the big drums and the lead line of the guitar, it sets this really cool element. And then even the way it like breaks down early on before it goes into that really big vocal part and then like comes back to everything.
Yeah.
It was such a cool arrangement of sound and like the way everything just kind of like led in and out of each other. So that was just one that really stood out to me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks.
But I am curious to know, what are some of your favorite tracks of yours to perform?
Oh, well, Garden is definitely a very cool one. So because I haven't played those songs in so long, it's kind of like, it's been really fun. I did a radio interview at Portland Radio Project, and she also pulled songs off of that album. She's like, these are really great. And I was like, oh, thanks. Like, I haven't had that feedback.
Yeah.
You know, it was just something that's just kind of been shelved, and like, it's really cool to hear people's thoughts on that. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Tiptoe. I like Tiptoe a lot on that album. Garden is fun. And then on my new album, I think my favorite song to play right now is Higher. I really like that.
Oh yeah. No, and I mean, if y'all haven't listened to the new album yet, pause this, go listen to it. It is really good.
Yeah.
But now let's go ahead and let's talk about some new music. Are you working on anything?
Yeah. So we got 4 tracks in the works.
Oh, exciting.
And it's been really fun. So I've been playing with a bass player and a drummer here. Drummers from Vancouver.
Oh yeah, isn't
Graham?
Yeah, Graham. There we go. Sorry, the name blank. He's the drummer for Lincoln Spirit. Correct? Yeah.
Yep. So
Lincoln Spirit.
He's so fun to play with. He has a lot of different accent notes that he hits on the drums.
Super talented drummer.
And it really fills in. It fills in the music that we create, right? Because it's just that acoustic guitar and bass, but those little accent notes here really adds a lot.
A dynamic drummer can really. I won't say that if they're not dynamic, it'll break the sound, but it can really make the sound a whole other level.
Yeah.
When like a drummer can fill those specific spaces.
Yeah.
And like have the like sight to do so.
Right.
That goes a really long way. Are those 4 tracks going to be like a new EP? Or are you working? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll get into the studio late this fall. There's like a really fun dancey track on there called Ooh La La.
Oh, good name for a dancing track.
Love it. And so I'm like, we got to get this recorded. Like people are singing along to it. People are dancing. It's high energy. It's really fun. And that's what, I mean, I love that high energy ness to my music. And I think it's fun where I can, it ebbs and flows throughout the album. Like, there's slow tracks, there's upbeat tracks.
Yeah. Well, you already know it's a solid track if people are singing along and there isn't a version that they can listen to have learned the words. So like the fact that they can capture it from the performance kind of says a lot.
Exactly. Yeah.
But now let's go ahead and let's take a moment and let's zoom out. Let's look at kind of music as a whole. And for this, you can either answer in the form of like new music as far as like what's coming out now, or at the very least music that's new to you. Yeah. But what are some of the things about newer music that you find enjoyment and excitement and inspiration in at the moment?
I'm always excited when I hear music that has that synth, right? That, because I'm not familiar with that. I really enjoy that. I also kind of really enjoy just kind of that chill synth, just kind of like, I don't know, something I can easily listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, synthesizers have now made their way into so much music.
Yeah.
That's kind of the realm of music I come from for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So now hearing it in more things where I'm like, wait a second, that's a very well put together synthesizer for this otherwise like casual yacht rock song. What are we doing? So and anytime I hear that sneak into something, I'm always excited. I think the blending of genres at the moment is becoming more and more apparent.
Yeah.
And just like the choice to use a sound because it like evokes an emotion versus the like purest form of, oh, we can't have that in this or it's not that genre.
Right. And I would like to add that at some point into my music because I think that would be so unique kind of with that kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say that I'm folky, but like, you know, that alt kind of folk punk, add a little bit of synth to that. That could be kind of cool.
Well, also synths have never been more accessible.
Yeah.
Like back in the day, like it was thousands of dollars for any synth. Like, you know, you had to spend so much money.
Right.
And they weighed 1 billion pounds and they took longer to warm up than tube amps. Like, and you had to leave, like if you left it on for too long, it would change the sound. But if you didn't leave it on long enough, it would change it.
Yeah.
They were just so finicky. So now like the opportunity to spend like $400 and to have like a reliable unit you can use anywhere and it sounds good. Like that is just such a cool opportunity because it means, and there's so many different versions of sounds, like, you know, some that sound more like piano, some that sound more like this, some that sound less like that, and you can put them anywhere.
Yeah.
And you could, like, every member of the band could even have one if they wanted because of the size alone.
Yeah.
So it goes a long way. That's I'm a big proprietor of introducing small keys into everything.
Yeah.
But getting back to it, this next question we have is probably the densest question in the interview. Okay. But we've talked a lot about, you know, your experiences with music, the actions, the reactions, things like that. But when it's just you and the music one-on-one, what does music give back to you?
Oh, God. Oh, yeah. It makes me the happiest. Like it fills my soul. And I think that's what, you know, going out and doing, from not playing music to then not playing music live to then going out and playing music live, like that exhilarating feeling I get it's so amazing. And something that's even more cool, and I think that ties into this, is that I'm for the first time now performing sober. And so like that high that I'm getting now from these performances is just, it's something that's untouchable. Yeah. And it's so cool, you know, like, you know, I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So there's shots all the time, you know, like there's shots. I mean, you're going to play a song, you're going to take a shot, you're going to, you know, like, and so those nights were always kind of blurry. And if we made a mistake, and, oh, well, we had too much to drink or whatever, you know, but now like being able to do that and fully be aware of what I'm doing and like how I'm connecting to the people and seeing people connect to my music is so cool.
Oh, very much so. Yeah. And I imagine that even having separated the two, finding out how much of the joy of the experience came from the actual music and not from drinking even.
Right.
Like there's something special to be had when you find out that was the source the whole time.
Yeah.
And not the rest of it.
Right.
And I mean, it probably makes going out a little less expensive too. But that's really cool. I really appreciate you sharing that. Yeah. Thank you. But now we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to some hypothetical questions. Okay. And for these, sky's the limits. The questions are all made up. All right. The answers are allowed to be as well. But this first one's pretty straightforward. If you could work with any one person, the only requirement is they have to be alive. Who would you want to work with and how would you want to work with them?
Oh, well, I'm going to have to say Ani DeFranco.
Okay. Yeah. And how would you want to work with them?
Yeah. I think having her, just like the feedback of having her give me feedback on my music or, you know, being on tour with her or, you know, just being somewhere in her orbit.
Gotcha.
Even if it was at being part of Righteous Babes records or, you know, like she's such a big influence for me, and has shaped me as a performer.
Gotcha. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then subsequently, who's a local artist that you're aware of that you haven't gotten to connect with yet, but you would like to?
Ooh, I would like to meet up with Jay Graves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody, at them in the comments. Let's see if we can make that happen.
Jay Graves.
That would be a great one.
Yeah. Her style of music is so cool, and that's kind of my roots. Like, I love that kind of style, and like I love seeing them perform. They're so high energy, and I think as as a performer, at least for me, like, I'm not going to get up on stage and strum some songs for you.
Yeah,
I'm going to get up on stage and give you a show.
Yeah,
like, you're here to see me. I'm going to want you to come back and see me, and that's what they do. Like, they rock up there.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then for this next one, like I said before, sky's the limit, and it's pretty literal in this sense. But if you could perform anywhere in the world, and you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access or building stability or power, it was guaranteed the best lineup, guaranteed the best show, and it doesn't have to be a venue. It could be anywhere.
My God.
Where would you want to perform?
What a great question. Well, anywhere in the world. Man, I don't know. I could tell you where I want to perform in Portland.
Oh, please. Yeah.
So Mississippi Studios is on my list. Like, I just need to do that. So if you guys are out there listening and you have any sort of connections of helping JoJo Gold play at Mississippi Studios, I would love that.
Hell yeah. No, remind me after this. I may actually know
someone cool. Yeah.
that you could reach out to. But before we start wrapping it up, this last question in the hypothetical questions. If you could get an album from one more person, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could have not put out an album in 100 years, they could have put out an album yesterday. Who would you want another album from?
Go with Prince.
Okay, yeah. I would love to know what a Prince album would sound like today. Like, especially after everything that's happened.
Who knows? Yeah. Like, I love how it's unpredictable.
Yeah.
And I think that's so, so unique and exciting.
Yeah, very much so. Well, and Prince was one of those people that, like, you knew for a fact there was nothing else that he could have done that was more Prince. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, music was so ingrained in his way of life.
Yeah.
That, like, you couldn't ever see him doing like a 9 to 5. You know what I mean? Like, there was like, I know he was good at many things. But, like, music was just such a strong and, like, powerful aspect of his existence.
Right.
He inspired so many people just to make music by existing. So I think that's a great answer. But now we're going to go ahead and we're going to start wrapping this up. What can we look forward to between, let's say, now and March?
Well, I'm going to be performing here this Friday.
Oh, exciting.
This Saturday.
Well, okay. And by the time this comes out, it will have been a couple weeks ago, but I'm sure it was amazing.
Well, I hope to have a couple more shows by the end of this year. So, follow me at JoJo Gold Lion on Instagram. And then hopefully have a new EP out by March, for sure, before March.
Oh, yeah.
Because I definitely want to be hitting some of the festivals and stuff for next year.
Awesome.
Playing those festivals are so fun, and like daytime shows are way better than playing at 11 at night.
Yeah, very much so. Now, I know you kind of just plugged it there, but go ahead and stare straight at the camera. Tell everybody how they can find you.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram at JoJo Gold Lion, like the animal. I'm also on Bandcamp. I think it just says JoJo Gold.
Okay, hell yeah. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you'd like to put on while you're on here?
I don't think so. I think, I'm happy to be a part of the music scene here in Vancouver now and also in Portland. So it feels like I'm just meeting so many great people. And if you're interested, please shout out and say hey and let's connect.
All right. With that being said, we've got one last question to go. But before we do, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second. As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation. But what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? So it's a deep cut. It's one not a lot of people would know, but it's one you think everybody should know.
Oh. Gosh. You know, I probably would have to say I would say one of Bjork's old albums, and I'm bad at remembering album names, but I would say something of Bjork.
Man, early Bjork is a great rec.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
That even inspires me to want to go back and check out some. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. I'm Jimmy.
JoJo Gold. Peace.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap.
This is not a podcast. This is a show.
Keep jamming.